Okay, everybody, what'd you think? My name's Ben Travers. I'm the TV critic at IndieWire, and I'm going to welcome to stage our wonderful guests. We have Greg Garcia, who you met earlier, Garret Dillahunt, and Carly Jibson.
Anybody else want to come up?
Yeah, we'll have some surprise guests later. Don't worry about it.
Fantastic.
On my chair. Oh, you just put that right in front of me. I see what's going on.
Blocking.
Oh, thanks for my extra chair.
You want me to sit there? I can sit there.
Just sit in front of me. Do you see my vagina? Just let's take a picture.
Just the first 3 rows. Chubby's Bikini Bar. With their philosophy, when they answer the phone, we won't tell if you don't.
Chubby's and point at me.
No, I meant it's your bar. It's your bar.
You're the proprietor.
That was terrible.
All
I
right,
wish we could see you guys.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
you mentioned this at the beginning, but I feel like we have to dig into it a little bit further.
Yeah.
This show was spawned because of a hobby that you had. You were writing in guest books that you'd go up to when you rented a cabin, and you had all these stories.
Yeah, so basically, I touched on it a little bit there. I would go up to write, and I have 3 kids, and it gets loud in my house, so I just forced myself to go away for a little bit. And one time, one of the first times I did it, actually, there was this guest book, and I was having trouble coming up with stuff, so I wrote this story. And then so basically, I think we did 10 episodes. I think 7 of them are from those stories, 2 originals I came up with, and then also at the end of this first season, all the regular townspeople, they have a story that concludes in episode 10. So that one wasn't one that I wrote in there. But, and then sometimes the stories would lend themselves for a whole episode. Sometimes they would only be like half of an episode. Like this one in particular, I had a lot of time, and I actually went around the cabin and counted every single thing, just in case they like checked me on it. Like I wanted to make sure. And it didn't get as involved in this. Certainly there were no townspeople that came to a party and stuff like that, so I'd have to kind of add stuff. But the first one I ever wrote, actually, we shot in a place called Pine Mountain up the 5 freeway outside Los Angeles, and I would just leave them there. And then Garrett one night rented a cabin to stay.
You're taking the only story I have.
Oh, tell it.
Mr. Dillahunt, I heard that you found a story in one of the
No,
books.
it's true.
Please tell us how that happened.
I remember you telling me about this idea you had, and then one night we were shooting late, and I decided to just rent a cabin up there and stay. And it happened to be the very cabin that you stayed in the very first time you got this idea, and that story was still there. And there's a few people who'd responded since, were like, Jesus, I can't follow that, but we really enjoyed our stay. Because it was like 12 pages of, cops coming and forks poking eyes out, and like, sorry about the bent tines on that one, but I washed it real good. It was really good. I felt like it was good luck that I found that.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
So, just out of curiosity, I mean, you mentioned that, obviously you were leaving these to freak people out, like to kind of play with the people who owned the cabin. Did you talk to them about it at all? Did you ask them about their response to
No, I never have. I get asked that a lot, but no, I got to think that some, people would read it, and sometimes they get so crazy that they have to know, like, this is just somebody messing around. Maybe I freaked out some people, but no, I've never gotten any response back from places. In some places, I was worried that they wouldn't have a guest book, and then I'd be there and they don't have a guest book. So I actually traveled with my own guest book, which, like, the first entry my wife wrote, and she was like, she just wrote up some bullshit about, we saw you didn't have a guest book, so we thought we'd buy one for you. And then I'd have my kid do another entry, and then, like, mine would be like the 3rd or 4th entry. And then I'd, like, hide it somewhere in the house so they'd find it later.
Well, this is the other question I had. If you're leaving these stories for other people to find, and that, did you just remember them and recreate them for the show?
Oh no, I'd make a copy for myself afterwards. My routine was, I thought at first I just wanted to read them to people. Like we'd be off on set or something and Raising Hope, and I would just read them to people on set and just to get people to laugh and stuff. And then I thought, maybe.
Did you make photocopies of them, or because they were all handwritten?
They're all handwritten. No, I'd then type them into my computer. So
that's a lot of work.
It was a lot of work. Yeah, my wife thought I was absolutely insane Because then it got to the point where I was like, oh, I'm going up to Big Bear to write. And she's like, well, what are you working on right now? I'm like, oh, I'm just going to write in a guest book. She's like, what is wrong with you? But at that point, I thought maybe like I'd do a book of short stories or something like that. And then when I started to get a lot of them, I thought these would be fun to film.
I mean, it's a lot of foresight to know that you needed to save them. Like, it's like, well, I mean, a lot of writers write things, then it just drifts away and you lose it, and you had something.
I'm a big fan of my work.
Yeah, yes.
I mean,
perhaps the
not
best.
going to just let that go.
All right, well, Mr. Dillahunt, obviously you two worked together on Raising Hope, but what else attracted you about the story and about the character you got to play, this doctor who we saw wandering around with a weapon?
I'll really, like Greg's kind of like Kurosawa, and I'm like Mifune. No, that's not. That's a bit of a stretch.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, it's like his favorite actor that he worked with all the time.
Okay.
So I'm
Yes.
projecting
Absolutely.
that on you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But it's really, I just would do anything Greg says. It's one of the best times I ever had working on Raising Hope. The easiest. I think the attitude on a set trickles down from the top, and his was such a good one that he could call. I mean, you saw how many friends he had on that thing from his past shows. It wasn't even an issue. We're like, yeah, what do you want? I don't even know what it is.
The funny thing was I really wanted Garrett to play the guy next door, and I knew he was busy with some other stuff, and I didn't know if it would work out schedule-wise and stuff. And it was just, it's in small doses until the story progresses at the end. And so I sent him the scripts, and I said, take a look and see if this is something you want to do. And then he just got back to me. He said, yeah, definitely, I definitely want to do it. And then we were about a week away from shooting or something, or 2 weeks. And I said, oh yeah, your first scene you'll be with my son Trace, who was on Raising Hope. He played the little flashback versions of the main character a lot, and Garrett was his father on that. And I said, yeah, you're Trace's dad. You have a scene with Trace. You're first up, and he's like, oh, I have a kid in this, and I was like, have you read any of them? He's like, no, I'm gonna read them. I'm gonna take a look at them. And so I was like,
Remember that?
yeah. So, but no, it was like for me, it was like a great honor because I was like, oh, he said yes. He hasn't even taken a look at it. This is awesome. This is awesome.
That's kind of terrible. That makes me feel bad.
No, it was. I felt great about it.
I mean, less of a fan of your writing than you were, apparently.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I was such
Or
a big
so much
fan
a fan.
that I
Or,
had
yeah.
utter confidence.
He didn't want it to.
Yeah.
He didn't want it to be spoiled.
Well, Miss Jibson, I'm curious.
It's Miss Gibson.
Um,
So official.
Absolutely. But a lot of actors, when they're getting ready for a role, no matter what, they want to do all this research and get into it, and they have a lot of questions for the creator and all this stuff's going on. How much did you know just from seeing the name Tickles?
I did so much extensive research in playing a whore in the guest book, and I did it in the name of art. And no, it's really funny because originally when I went in for this, I was so excited, obviously, because Greg, it's Greg's new show, and I mean, I don't even know how much of this I'm allowed to disclose or whatever. But originally, it called for a black or Latino girl, and I was like, oh man, there's no way, but I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna get in there and make an ass out of myself and see if I can't shake things up. And so I went into it kind of with that energy of just, which I think is the best energy to go into the audition room of just you don't know what's gonna happen, but you're just gonna go for it and you're gonna leave whatever you can, the best of you on the floor. So I grew up like a full dumpster human. My family's full, that's actually my lineage, is just white trash. So I know this girl very well. She's in me all the time. Yep. And so it wasn't a full stretch for me to find her, I'll tell you that. You just put some fishnets on and some bright lipstick, and she pops right out.
And she killed it. I mean, she came in the audition and just killed it. And
you know how it goes.
It was listed as a diverse role, and she just comes in and kills it, and then you just readjust, and you're like, okay, well now these roles, we're gonna make these roles diverse, and just so she really changed the landscape of the casting process from her audition.
Well, you changed my landscape.
Well, from that kind of casting perspective, I mean, because it's an anthology show and you're bringing in a lot of people and there's a lot of rotation, What were some of the challenges with that, and then how easy was it, like Mr. Dillahunt kind of mentioned, of getting people to sign on just because they're so excited about the work and working with you and working with the other cast members?
Well, it was a combination of people that I've worked with in the past and then people that I've never worked with, but I was a fan of. And so the biggest struggle was scheduling, because we would shoot 2 episodes at a time, so I would need to lock down an actor for 2 weeks, because we'd shoot the interiors for 2 episodes, and then we would go shoot the exteriors for 2 episodes. And so I was asking people to, commit for 2 weeks. And so you weren't getting people, certainly couldn't get people that were on other shows and busy. I mean, Martha Plimpton really wanted to come do an episode, but she was busy. She was furious. She was all the time texting us, mad that she wasn't there having fun with us.
I kept sending pictures.
She was furious. So that was the biggest struggle. But aside from that, I mean, the fact that you get to come play a character in 1 episode, it's usually a pretty bizarre character. They have like a fun twist or whatever, so it's a fun thing to play. You don't have to commit to more than that. Like Michael Rappaport, I'd worked with him a lot, but he also did this little movie called Special that he played like this kind of odd, weird guy and a little against what he normally plays, and I just thought of him for this, and he was ready to do it right away. So I think scheduling was probably the only thing that sometimes got in the way.
Okay, well, we're going to get to audience questions here in just a second. But the last thing that I wanted to ask you guys as a group, I'm really excited that this has a lot of anthology elements into it, and I think it's really fun right now to be able to watch a show where it's a little bit episodic, even though there are serialized elements to it as well. But I'm curious, just from your perspective, and especially since we were in here yesterday for Room 104, which had this too. What do you think the audience is looking for in this? Like, why is this becoming something of at least you guys are starting a trend, if not really enveloping this?
I think the fun of watching it is the same fun as writing it. It's fresh every week. I mean, I did want to have like a constant reason to keep coming back every week and not miss one, but we do very much try to do a different episode every week that just has a different feel to it, a different tone. It's always a different story. Even the music we change up every week. Our composer, John Lowe, did an amazing job, and I told him I want every episode to sound the same but different at the same time, and he did a great job with that. So I would say the variety of it is just very appealing.
And for you guys as actors, was there anything specifically appealing, or even as viewers at home, about kind of the anthology elements of it?
No, I mean, I will say that just working with different guest stars every single week was such a fucking blast. I mean, everybody brought a new energy in, and, we had a through line for those of us that, were regulars or reoccurrings, that we had, our own thing going on, but just, throwing new people in every week made it so much more fun and helped us, I think, sort of develop our dynamics as well, because we were forced to sort of be the constant and the familiar, and so because of that, you kind of had to develop your character development. So, and really ask those ridiculous theater questions of who am I? What does this person want? Do they get what they want? Why or why not? Remember? Remember that whole thing? And you're just writing it down, being I don't know. I can't find it in the script. But, and then you create a backstory for yourself that's just has nothing to do with anything, and no one ever asks you for it. You just have it for yourself. But yeah, so it was very much like that. And also just being such a fan of television and these actors in general, just getting to work with them was the tits.
Yeah, we got real lucky. I mean, it's, just off the top of my head, it was people that came in. We had Danny Pudi and Lauren Lapkus and Stockard Channing and Jamie Presley and Tommy Dewey, Michaela Watkins.
I got to make out with Tommy Dewey, spoiler alert. You're welcome.
Oh, Orson Bean. Orson Bean was fantastic. Jenna Fisher was great in an episode. Shannon Woodward you saw there, because every episode kind of leads you into the next one. So yeah, we got lucky with a lot of good people.
All right, well, I know there's some fans out there because of just the reaction to that screening. I could hear you guys laughing. So
that was nice.
If we've got some audience questions,
Nice
I will
Crabman
try
response.
to find you. Yeah, right back here on the right.
Well, I had the stories, and I was I showed the stories around to different people, and that's a leap. It's a big leap to look at these stories and try to get in my head and figure out what we would do with the show. And it was at a time too where we were getting a lot of like, anthology, we're not sure, you know, it doesn't really work well, and blah 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 blah. And now a bunch of people are doing it, and I think it's going to work great. And then so I'd kind of a little bit not given up on it, but thought maybe it's not going to work. And then Alex Jaffe, who's an executive producer on the show that runs my production company, went to lunch with a couple guys from TBS, and she came back, and I was like, how was it? And she was like, I think I just sold the guest book. And I was like, what? And they dug the idea, and then they read the stories, and they really liked the stories, and they were on board. So it was a lot of discussion back and forth to get the deal done between, you know, the studio and the network, and just figure it all out, as it always is. But ultimately, Kevin Riley, who I worked with on My Name is Earl and Raising Hope, so we have a long history. He believed in it too, and said, yeah, let's just shoot 10 episodes and see how it works out. So it was great.
That's a great meeting, yeah.
And it's it's the most fun I've ever had doing a TV show for only this reason. Like I wrote 10 episodes, they were done. We shot 10 episodes, and then I went and edited the 10 episodes. And I was never stressed the entire time, because when you do 22 episodes of TV on a network, like somewhere around episode 13, you're shooting it, and you realize you don't have stories for the rest of the season, and you go nuts. And this was like completely stress-free and a blast. So I hope we get to do it for a long time.
Oh, that's great. That's very exciting. What other questions we have out in the audience? Oh, back left, I think.
I don't actually have a question. I just wanted to say that I really like Superfly, and I'm very sad that it didn't.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, we shot that pilot twice. That was kind of came from when during the writer's strike, I worked at Burger King for a month, and then we kind of took that idea a little bit and turned it into a show. Yeah, I like that one a lot too. There was actually somebody whispered in my ear the other day that they want to even try to do it a third time, and I said, "You're crazy." But yeah, thank you.
All right. Yeah, right here on the left.
Garrett, you were my favorite Terminator. And then when I saw you do comedy, I was blown away. So I'm just curious, is there anything else you want to try?
Right now.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we did a musical episode.
we did.
That was kind of fun. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of you to say. Honestly, I feel like most actors I know, given the opportunity, can play a lot of things. I think it's what we all do. But I'm the lucky one that got the opportunity. And I think it was hard to get Raising Hope, actually. I'd done so much rape and pillage before.
Well, I mean, it wasn't hard for I saw you because you went on tape in New York.
That's right.
And I was just sold right
I had
away.
to go through a lot of hurdles, I remember, because everyone was like, that guy, the killer guy?
Yeah, yeah.
And then it was hard, like by the second season of Raising Hope. I
And it's
remember
like, what? He's a comedy guy.
Exactly. This movie came around, and they were really hesitant because they thought I was this comedian, which is so far from the truth, clearly. But yeah, I'm just gonna keep trying. But thank you.
I think we have time for one more. Let's go back here on the left. Yeah.
A lot of people return to the same vacation places over and over again. So do you have plans to, or would you consider having a returning guest?
Oh, absolutely. You know, again, it might come down to schedule. We air at the end of August, and then after we air, they'll let us know if they're going to do a season 2. In the meantime, I've been writing season 2, so I'm basically just writing fan fiction of my own show, because nobody has asked me for it. So, but I'm having a blast. I'm having a good time writing them. And I think what I'll probably do, honestly, is have some stories that can work for those existing characters in a new chapter in their life, something, you know, and you can bring back the same people. Or if the schedule doesn't allow it, then it could just be fresh actors. But I think everybody had a good time when they came, and everybody seemed to want to come back if their schedule let it happen.
All right, I think we're going to try to squeeze in one really quick, just because, why not? I'm letting him choose. You can do it.
We're going to do 2.
Okay.
Thank you for constantly having quirky family comedy, from My Name is Earl to Brothers to Raising Hope, A Whole New Dakota Family, and it seems like the guest book is the village is the family. So what keeps on drawing you to that, and as actors, what drew you to that kind of sentiment?
For me, I mean, the fact of having a family is just built-in. It's built-in reason to care. I mean, everybody has a family, and so at the end of the day, you want these people to get along. I mean, if you have a workplace comedy, which I've never done that, you know, it just seems like an extra hurdle to manufacture why these people care about each other and everything, where it's just inherent with a family. So for me, that's why I think I'm drawn back to that thing, whether, like you said, it's an actual family or these townspeople who actually are, you know, getting into each other's lives.
No, yeah, I think the redeemable thing about any character in any situation is that, and it's the great equalizer, is that everybody just sort of wants to be loved and accepted for who they are. And so I think that longing for that sense of community, or people that are like you, or people that think like you, whether you know, your family that's built in or the family that you create, I think that's the one thing that's sort of like, you know, is the true equalizer for all of us. So I think that in terms of television content, I think that's something that people will always be wanting, and people will always be wanting to be a part of, if that answered your question at fucking all.
I guess families are like the original ensembles, aren't they? And I'm really drawn to ensemble stories. I think they're the most interesting, and everything is an ensemble. Even a one-man show is an ensemble. You know, you can't do it alone. And there's just such heart always at the core of Greg's stuff. It's just so much fun to do. It's just so much fun.
All right,
one more.
That was a great question, just for the record. And then really quick, because we're getting the heart out.
Well, the secret for this one was the fact that I didn't have a writer's room, so I didn't have to deal with all the politics and doing all that stuff. And the stories kind of, you know, were somewhat easy for whatever reason in this to write. Maybe because you didn't have to worry so much about the same characters every week and what their journey is, and it's just kind of one and done for the majority of it. So the fact that I wrote those and then was able to shoot, not having to worry about stories or scripts or anything or another. You know, usually when you're running a show on the network, I have to be on stage because I'm a control freak. So I'm there, but then there's a whole nother part of it going on that's driving me crazy because I'm not in that room with the writers trying to figure out and control that as well. So it drives me nuts. Whereas with this, it was just be able to just calmly, you know, have fun with each part of the process. It was just unbelievably stress-free, and the network and studio were amazing and supportive, and it, like, you know, when they had notes, they were great, and for the most part, they just said, hey, you know what you're doing, just go off and do your thing. And yeah, I have 3 kids. You know, during the time of shooting, you don't see them as much as you do during the other stuff, but when you're just writing and editing, then you're home, and they know the drill. They lived through My Name Is Earl and Raising Hope. And my littlest one, the only one that even likes me anymore, he would come. I put him on the show sometimes, so he just comes up and then hangs out with us in the mountains, and we stay in a hotel together, and he just has fun. He has no interest in acting, but he likes hanging out and going to craft service. So that's fun way to see everybody.
All right, well, thanks, everybody, for coming out today. Thank you so much for the panelists.
Thank you.